Alright, good morning.
Okay, hi.
And today I'm going to talk about Plessy versus Ferguson.
Okay, so now let's talk about the case.
It all began basically in summer of 1892.
Plessy versus Ferguson was a United States Supreme Court decision that cemented the idea of separate but equal treatment under the law.
Homer Plessy rode on a whites-only trolley.
Now, all of this was planned. In 1890, Louisiana State passed a law that allowed railroad companies to form two separate cars for the two races, a blacks-only car, a whites-only car. So soon after that, a group of citizens in New Orleans formed the Citizens Committee to test the Separate Car Act. And their goal was to violate the law, to break the law, and then challenge it in court to get it overturned by a judge. So to do so, they enlisted a man named Homer Adolph Plessy.
He was born free.
And got him to buy a first-class ticket and board the whites-only car. Now, he was allowed to do this because he was 7/8 white, 1/8 black.
But in Louisiana law, you're still considered black, basically. You look like one drop of black blood, you're black. So
no one really suspected him up until the point he was on the car and he announced to everyone that he actually had African-American heritage, which, of course, everyone freaked out about.
he refused to move.
And they came to arrest Homer Plessy.
So he took his case to the lower courts in Louisiana
To have his case decided. And really his case was based on the argument that his rights guaranteed by the 14th Amendment had been violated. So he arrives in court, and the judge's name is John Ferguson, who later becomes the Ferguson and Plessy versus Ferguson.
Anyway,
So the first court case is called Plessy versus the State of Louisiana. And in that court case, Ferguson sides with the state and says that it is the state's right to allow companies that it regulates to decide separate but equal. Yeah. And so Plessy and his crew, the Citizens Committee to test the Separate Car Act, they appeal the case. It goes up to the Louisiana Supreme Court, where they get the same ruling, Ferguson's ruling. They appeal it again, and by now it's about 1896.
it goes all the way to the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court, in a 7-1 decision, side with the state once again, and really cement the idea of separate but equal is constitutional.
So Plessy versus Ferguson encompasses the law, encompasses Jim Crow, basically.
There's one dissenter whose opinion is actually pretty well known now. It was Justice Harlan, and his argument against the Supreme Court's decision was basically that this decision is based on race. It's a racist judgment.
Well, we immediately see a turnaround to make a stride to make things separate. Even it floods up to like the northern states.
And I think that the decision itself is based upon like social pressure.
It was ruled that Louisiana can control who and who cannot ride on any transportation or be in any facilities because it was in the state boundaries and it was not, interstate.
And so
It was finally ruled in the Supreme Court in 1896, and Plessy paid the fine in January 1897.
And the Constitution, which the Supreme Court is supposed to interpret as best they can, should be colorblind.
But after the case was ruled, it was a strive for segregation, basically. And we saw, like, schools that were once integrated became segregated, as well as workforces. And this wasn't even changed till you got Brown versus Board of Education in 1954.
And I think in those instances where the majority is persecuting a minority, then someone with the authority, like the government, has to protect that minority, no matter what the minority is, in order to better embody the Constitution.
So, I guess that's it.